Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. According to a famous analyst at Bloomberg, Bitcoin, and thus XRP and all of crypto, is at an inflection point. And I want to share with you a bunch of data in this particular Moon Lambeau hot jam because analysts, a lot of the analysts that I follow, they seem to think in terms of progression for the market cycle, very similar things, while calling where we are at in the market cycle very different things. So I find that they agree on a number of things, and then since they don't agree on the term, on specific terms, like what is a bear market, they think they disagree with each other more than they do. I suspect anyway, not that they're all talking to one another, but there are analysts that I follow that say we are in a bear market right now. And they came to that conclusion kicking and screaming, with the blockchain backer, my fellow XRP YouTuber, being the first to state that and taking a lot of grief from a lot of analysts in the space. But then there's also Credible Crypto, who I think is a top shelf analyst, stand-up guy. And he says, no, this isn't a bear market. This is actually just a mid-cycle correction. It's just interesting to see in terms of timing, when might it be reasonable to expect Bitcoin and thus the crypto markets, including XRP, to go to the upside. I'm just seeing a good bit of overlap and just bigger picture on a macro scale what that means, but they don't agree on whether it's a mid-cycle correction or a bear market. Well, I'm more interested in the ideas, and it's nice to see that there's some overlap. I mean, yeah, fine. What's the litmus test for deciding what's a mid-cycle correction and a bear market? Well, who's in charge of determining that, okay? Which is why people can easily, I just find this in life in general, it's easy to talk past one another, say, no, we're clearly in a bear market. You don't think we're in a bear market, you idiot stick? Well, do you share the same ideas? Yes. Okay, so you're disagreeing on a definition. Maybe start there. Anytime you're debating anybody, before you really proceed, make sure you agree on definitions. That's a pro tip from Moon Lambeau, just in life in general. So anyway, plenty to cover, but before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Now, as I record this, XRP is at 39 cents. Bitcoin's at $29,763. Market cap for the asset class, 1.24 trillion, and Bitcoin dominance looking pretty good. If you're a Bitcoin max, you're probably pretty darn happy here, 45.74%. And actually, I don't mind either. Bitcoin is a behemoth and a powerhouse. Say what you will about it, it is the least technologically advanced crypto on the entire planet. I still have a fondness for it because it was the first, though. And I recognize that Bitcoin leads crypto markets. So if we're going to have a point in time, we will, where crypto markets just rocking on out of here in terms of price action, and which happens inevitably, cycles are a real thing, not unreasonable to think that Bitcoin's going to be leading. So seeing that dominance has picked up a bit after somewhat recently being more like around the 40% level, to see it at 45.74%, I'm like, cool, whatever. Don't care. Doesn't matter. The whole market moves in tandem still. Just zoom out on a chart. And here's a crypto fear and greed index at 14 out of 100. So market participants clearly still in extreme fear. And so there's this headline from crypto media outlet U Today titled "Bitcoin is at an inflection point," says Bloomberg analyst Mike McGlone, which is what got me thinking in terms of this. And so look, according to this very famous analyst at Bloomberg, Mike McGlone, he's very well known in crypto, Bitcoin, and like I said at the outset, the XRP and all of crypto, it's at an inflection point. And from his perspective, since the Fed is engaging in quantitative tightening, which is just the implementation of a monetary policy that's designed to reduce the money supply that's floating around the economy, this will slow economic activity in an attempt to ease inflation, right? And so it's the opposite of quantitative easing. It's quantitative tightening. And quantitative easing, when you hear that, just think, oh, money printing, because that's effectively what they mean. Changing. There's plenty of supply out there. Quantitative easing, it's easy to get the money out there. Easy for people. Yeah, there's so much of it. There you go. Quantitative tightening, it's the opposite. Raising interest rates in an attempt to tamp down inflation, but that also, you have to be careful about it because it will, as you raise interest rates, it's the same as if you increase tax on something. You're asking for less of something. People do have real world responses. So if there's an interest rate that's higher, a certain amount of people will be not willing to take on risk at higher percentage rates. But if you entice them with a lower interest rate, maybe they will take it on. So here you have, again, quantitative tightening. And so the expectation is that this will result in lower stock prices across the board. And Since Bitcoin and crypto follow stocks, in theory, this will push prices further down in crypto markets. But still, this is no guarantee. Think of the stock market and crypto markets as being full of all sorts of different market participants, including you and me, all of whom have different temperaments. I'm talking about on a human level here, different temperaments. Now, all have varying abilities when it comes to managing their own emotions, which is it's crucial. It's crucial to understand because it's normal for people who have an emotional response to lower prices, to end up panic selling. And at some point, prices dip enough that you actually shake out just about all of the types of people who are more prone to use their emotion to make a decision to panic sell, leaving only stronger market participants who simply won't respond to the negative volatility by panic selling, or have a much higher threshold when it comes to the emotional pain they'll endure before panic selling. And as such, it's reasonable to ask yourself, how many of the emotionally weaker market participants have already capitulated? Think about this. XRP is down over 75% compared to its 2021 high. Bitcoin is down over 50% from its all-time high. The Dow Jones is down about 10% this year after hitting an all-time high this past December. So, and of course, look, 10% is nothing in crypto, but in stocks, that's monstrous. And volatility is much less intense with stocks than crypto. So again, how many humans that have a temperament that makes them likely to sell are still around? How many of those types of humans are here even? When it comes to XRP, it looks like most of those people have already left the market. There are now a bunch of people like me who simply will not sell. I refuse. I will not. I will take this bitch down to zero. If that's what happens, so be it. I am not selling, period. Now, that doesn't mean we've seen the bottom. I never pretend to know when markets bottom, but I am saying that I think most of the pain that's going to occur already has. Just about the only thing that would cause me to change my opinion would be an outlier incident. Like the capitulation of global markets in March 2020 as a result of the pandemic is a perfect example of an outlier incident that we didn't know was going to happen. Now, considering all of that, quantitative tightening from the Fed will likely have a limited negative impact on crypto specifically. That doesn't mean we can't see a dramatic downside move, but I think that most of the damage that can be done has already been done. And so that's what I'm saying. I think we already have seen the worst. And if things are cyclical, and they have been to this point, there's good reason to think that they're gonna be bottoming out soon. I got something so interesting. I got to do things in a specific order for the video to flow the way I want it to. But the last thing I'm covering, it's data having to do with the bear market and where we're at and what that means for an alt season, what that means for Bitcoin specifically. Really interesting stuff, but I want to go in order here. And then there was also this. Bitcoin signals this familiar trend typical of bear markets. That's a headline from You Today. On-chain analytics platform Into the Block notes a familiar trend that is typical with Bitcoin in most bear markets. Investors with long-term horizons grow their holdings during bear markets. According to a chart provided with the tweet, the percentage of Bitcoin owned by addresses that held for 1 year or longer has increased in prior bear markets, and this tendency appears to be repeating itself. Now, according to the Into the Block's holders composition by time held, and this is the important data, 61% of Bitcoin holders have held onto their coins for more than a year. And by the way, I'll pause to note, that would be me. 33% have held on for a year, and 7% have held onto their coins for less than a month. The greater chunk of Bitcoin holders being medium and long-term holders might suggest that Bitcoin has been seeing buying pressure from this class. Well, go figure. The people that are still sticking around, less panic selling occurring here, more likely to hold for the long haul. Well, call me crazy. What do you know? But still, directionally, whatever's happening in the moment just seems like it's going to do that forever. Look at this screen grab from an account on Twitter called Relay. It's a screen grab of the Crypto Fear and Greed Index from November 6, 2020. And the price of Bitcoin was 16,000, way lower than it is now. But the market was in extreme greed at 90 out of 100. It was a fun time to be around. I'm sure a lot of you listening were around back then, right? I was having a good time. We were all having a good time, right? But Bitcoin is only 16,000, which is why, again, to highlight, right now, well, this screen grab here is another updated one from June 2nd, 13 out of 100 extreme fear, but the price is 30,000 at the time this tweet went out. That's why, again, it's not the price, it's the direction, and that is stupid as hell. Just directionally what's happening, now we're going to feel things and make important financial decisions because directionally something's happening. It's silly stuff here. Here's what chart analyst Income Sharks had to say. He wrote, Bitcoin. Sometimes to go up, you need to go down first. Think of a rubber band. We hit our first test of resistance, bullish. Market conditions are weaker, so we need another attempt. So we reload lower and we'll attempt again. This is bullish if you can be patient. Isn't that the truth, folks? If you can be patient. And that's what history shows us in stocks and in crypto. Over 100 years of information and stock data showing that's the truth. The people that hold end up doing fine. And over a decade for the world of crypto. People that hold are fine. That's it. Doesn't mean that things can't go bad. Doesn't mean specific cryptocurrencies and stocks don't go to zero. Of course they do. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's not risk. I'm just saying in a general sense the trend is up. And then there was this from Credible Crypto, and he's talking about the ETH BTC pair. And what he says here about ETH BTC, I actually think it'd be the same for pretty much every altcoin, even XRP BTC. But here's what he wrote. ETH BTC continues to bleed and is almost at my target first outlined 4 months ago. That being said, Bitcoin hasn't even started its fifth wave yet, meaning I expect ETH BTC to go a lot lower as Bitcoin leads the market out of this correction into its major fifth. Revised target below. So, one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this is it has to do with what I was saying a few minutes ago. Bitcoin dominance is climbing right now. That's not the end of the world. That's bad. So I understand, like, money's still bleeding crypto. I get it. But historically, we've seen this time and time again. It doesn't mean that there won't be better days in the future. In fact, take a look at this tweet from chart analyst Love Crypto. He wrote, ideally, I would love to see Bitcoin have one final push lower sometime in Q3 to tag the 200 weekly moving average before it begins to its final macro wave 5 to $100,000 plus towards the end of the year or Q1 2023. And so Love Crypto and Credible Crypto, they both do see this movement to the upside at some point happening. So does Income Sharks. I'm telling you, every analyst that I follow thinks this. It's just a question of, is this a bear market now? Is this a mid-cycle correction? That's why I'm like, okay, well, call it what you want to call it, but market's not hot right now, okay? It's, but okay, so let's assume it's a bear market just for the sake of conversation. You guys got to see this. This is just fascinating stuff because if history is to repeat, my God. Okay, so if history is to repeat in terms of market bottoms and Bitcoin price action, that would mean if this really is a separate market cycle and Bitcoin takes off again when it finally does, and it plays out cyclically like we've seen in the past, that would mean that for the first time in history, Bitcoin already had its pop in, November, it hit almost $70,000, its all-time high when it did it in November. We had that all-time high for Bitcoin without alt season. That would be the first time in history. Which is why, and look, I've said, it's not like I thought that was impossible. And I don't pretend to know anything for sure, but that's why I said, like, when it comes to markets, history doesn't literally repeat itself, but it kind of rhymes with itself. And so that doesn't mean that you're not going to see an alt season ever again. And it also sure as hell doesn't mean that cryptocurrencies that solve real problems for real people, it doesn't mean that they're going to zero. Even if crypto markets capitulate majorly and we finally have that flushing out of the system where most of the 19,000 plus cryptos go to zero, which will happen at some point. I don't know when. That's going to happen at some point. That is... I'm more sure of that than I am sure that the sun will rise tomorrow. Like, I'm joking a little bit, but seriously, it's about the same. Like, that's going to happen here, folks. But look at this headline from the Daily Hodl. Top crypto analyst pinpoints date on Bitcoin and crypto turnaround. This is really fascinating stuff. Hang with me for this if you got the time. It's interesting. So, a widely followed crypto strategist says one crucial metric can help accurately call Bitcoin market bottoms. Pseudonymous trader Rect Capital tells his 311,400 Twitter followers that Bitcoin's relative strength index, or RSI for short, is mirroring levels reached in January 2015. December 2018 and March 2020, signaling a bounce might be on the horizon for the top crypto asset by market cap. And here's a quote from Rect Capital. Bitcoin is approaching the RSI bear market bottom area once again. When could it take place in this cycle? It took 1,461 days for the 2018 bear market bottom to form after the 2015 bear market bottom. If the same symmetry repeats, the upcoming bear market bottom will occur in January 2023. End quote. So let me just pause again. The last perspective I just shared a second ago from Love Crypto, he has a similar expectation here. So he didn't call it the bottom, but he's talking about Bitcoin taking off. Well, if the bottom is, as he cited here, likely to be the end of this year or the beginning of 2023, if that's when Bitcoin takes off, that means the bottom must have happened prior to that, right? I think it's interesting. So check this out. There's even more, though. So piece continues as follows. An asset's RSI is a momentum indicator measuring recent prices to determine whether it is oversold or overbought in a specific time frame. The trader next presents a scenario where the bear market bottom arrives 2 months earlier in November and cites Bitcoin's halving, which happens every 4 years, as the reason. And here's another quote from Rect Capital. There is a chance that the Bitcoin RSI bear market bottom takes place a little sooner than January 2023, and this would be due to the Bitcoin halving, which next occurs 2024, end quote. Now, Rect Capital lays out an if past is prologue scenario where the bear market bottom does in fact occur this autumn. And so here's a quote from him. Bitcoin bottomed in 2015, 547 days before the second halving. Bitcoin bottomed in 2018, approximately 486 days before the third halving. If Bitcoin bottoms 487 or 548 days before the fourth halving in April of 2024, then that bottom would take place in October or November in 2022, end quote. Now, the trader concludes by saying that the RSI data indicates that Bitcoin is oversold, meaning that those who bought in during the months-long bear market are likely to be rewarded during the next cycle. And here's a final quote from him. It's clear that Bitcoin is entering oversold RSI conditions. Historically, long-term Bitcoin investors who'd accumulated in these conditions have benefited from high return on investment in the many months that followed, end quote. So if you look at history, what happened in the past isn't an absolute guarantee. Things can be exactly the same, but history tends to rhyme with itself when it comes to the stock market and crypto markets. Most people would agree with that. To me, it seems very obvious. So if history loosely unfolds like it has in the past, what do you think's going to happen? Look, I'm telling you, you're not going to have a world where Bitcoin, the least sophisticated cryptocurrency on the entire damn planet, just goes up to 100% market cap and then all the other cryptocurrencies stop to exist. That's not how things work. Different cryptocurrencies have different technical attributes, are capable of different things for various use cases. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And so you're never going to have one coin to rule them all. Ain't happening. So Bitcoin dominance climbing, fine. I don't mind seeing that. We've seen that a number of times. For the existence of big crypto existing, frankly, fine. But eventually, there's going to be an alt season. XRP is going to rocket. It's going to hit all-time high in enterprise discovery. That's my bet anyway. No guarantees in any of this, but that's my bet. And you're going to see Bitcoin dominance as alt season takes off. You're going to see Bitcoin dominance plummet, and its all-time low, I believe, was somewhere around 35% during the previous market cycle. Got down to 35% as alt season was taken off. So I'm anticipating that's going to come again. Let me know what you think, but I'll go ahead and wrap up here. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.